Hello, friends. It's me, Mr. Tardy, back with another chapter quiz review. That's this time for chapter 24. Yes, the one and only plant reproduction and response chapter. Of course. Anyways, so there's the intro out of the way. So I'm gonna take notes and record this and post it up because I have some students that might be gone. I do like to record these. Yada yada yada. They're here if you need them. So on this quiz, here's what we can anticipate. You're going to expect 15 multiple choice questions. You're going to anticipate 7 sentence structure. And again, sentence structure are a combination of the true false fixins as well as the fill in the blanks. Anything where you have to fill in the blanks. Finally, there's going to be 3 short response questions. So with that out of the way, I hope you're ready and prepared to take a look at this. So let's start with this. Oh, let's make this full screen just a little touch bigger. Okay. Take a sippy sip. Flowering plants produce pollen grains in their anthers. So the male pollen grain is produced in the anther of angiosperm. Angiosperm, again, is the scientific name of a plant that flowers. Dormancy periods allow seeds to germinate under ideal conditions. Let's say that a seed gets fertilized and is ready for planting in the middle of winter. Middle of winter is a terrible time. The ground is frozen. There's not a lot of water input because all of it's solid in the form of snow. It's not great. And so by having dormancy and letting the seed be able to stay ready for 6 months or so until the spring or the summer or the fall, when it's a nice time, then it's allowed to germinate when it's better. And so the dormancy period is very nice. Let's see what I want to put next. In flowering plants, fruits, not fruitus, fruits, are the matured ovaries that contain seeds. And once more, I'm going to say it again, but it should be in our mind that an angiosperm is a flowering plant. So the angiosperm typically results in a fruit because the fruit is the matured ovary. The ovary is what makes the angiosperm an angiosperm. The ovary contains the seeds. Vegetative reproduction allows plant offspring to reproduce via mitosis. What does this mean? Well, let me take like a little, I don't know, do we got brown? This is kind of like a brown. So we take a potato, right? And we cut this potato into pieces based off their seeds, their eyes. So this is vegetative reproduction. These little chunks are able to undergo mitosis, and the mitosis is allowing it to root and be able to grow into new potato plants. It takes one cell and duplicates. That's mitosis. That makes sense to you guys. So that's what vegetative reproduction means. It can reproduce via mitosis. The style, the stigma, and the ovary are all parts of a female flower. So the female flower has many structures. The ovary is the most obvious one. The stigma is a receptor, and the style is also part of that. Filament's not, but again, style, sigma, ovary, it's not sigma, stigma. They are all parts of the female flower. I put 2. 7 sounds good. Half of the page. Half of the multiple choice. Going back to vegetative reproduction. It can be a detriment. A detriment is something that's bad, you know, disadvantage. When the environment changes suddenly. If you are in an environment that's very good, then that's very good to have the same kids over and over with the same genetic code. Potato, potato, potato. It worked for my grandfather, worked for his grandfather, worked for his grandfather. It's going to work for me. It's going to work for my kids. That's what the potato says via mitosis. But if something bad happens, like the blight, which caused the Great Potato Famine in Ireland, something bad happens with that sudden change, well, there's not enough genetic diversity in order for the plant to really succeed. And so that can be very much a detriment. Vegetative reproduction and mitosis is great if you're in a safe area, but if you're in a dangerous, suddenly changing area, then it is bad. Let's see, what else am I missing? Seeds are more successful when farther away from their parents, since this prevents competition with the parent, right? Really think about it. If a tree, here, we'll have a blue tree. Or pink tree, whatever. If a tree drops its seeds underneath it, well, the seeds are going to start to grow, but then it's going to come into issues. The big tree is going to steal all the water. It's going to take all the nutrients. There's not going to be enough soil around for the seedling to grow. And the big tree is going to block off the sun. There's nothing that the big tree could do about it. It's just the way the big tree is. So the plant is going to die off. It's way better if the seedling is farther away because it's able to grow to its maximum potential due to less competition. So hopefully that makes sense. Oh, what color do I want to use this time? Let's pop in with a nice purple. I like that one. We'll throw, different lines. Take some seconds. If you need to pause, please feel free to do so. But we're going to move on to the next set of multiple choice. Okay, let's put this like right here. Right here. Okay. In a seed, the embryo, got my M, that'd be the embryo, begins to grow during germination, right? In a seed, the embryo is put on stasis saying, wait, and the ideal conditions come around and says, okay, I'm ready. So when it starts to grow again, that's germination. Think about the seeds that we did in our class with those plants. They didn't grow right away, but they did grow eventually. They started to germinate. Root tissues in plants lead to ethylene gas. I know that we really don't talk about the chemistry portion in physical science because we really don't get the time, and I have other stuff that I find more important. But ethylene is a form of alcohol. Typically, if it ends with "ene," it's a form of alcohol. And fruits, when they ripen and they overripe, they produce vinegar and they produce alcohol. So ethylene gas comes from the fruits. Okay. If a pollen grain lands on the stigma of a same species flower, then a pollen tube is formed. So that's kind of self-explanatory. It says it right there. Oh, don't want a diagonal. I don't know how to fix it. Oh, there we go. There we go. So the pollen grain lands on the stigma. The pollen tube is formed, but it's got to be the same species. Cross species don't work. Can't take a dandelion and you can't take a rose and get a dandelion. That would be cool though. Oh, let me come back to it. Okay. What else? What to put? Plants are important to people since we get food, medicine, and mats from the plant. Materials, you know, you think about something. You ever think about where string comes from? String, we take shreds of grass, wheat, or other fibrous plants, and we kind of just beat them and shred them apart and dry them. And then we twine them together. That's how we get twine and string. They come from plants. So very, very important. Of course, there's the obvious one in the food. And medicine. A lot of medicine comes from plants. Plant seedlings grow in a way that is usually phototropic and gravitropic. Photo, if you remember, is Latin for light, and gravi will refer to light or for gravity. And tropic typically means that it's independent. And so the seedlings, when they're very starting, they don't need gravity and they don't need light to get started. Helps out, it definitely does, but it's not necessary when it starts to plant up more majorly. See, I got 3 more. The photo period of the plant is when the plant responds to, now let's break it down. Photo, we just said that photo means light. Period means time length. So breaking this down, lengths of light, time of light. So it responds to changes in light and darkness. Okay? The photo period takes place during the night and during the day. It changes in between because there's times in which it is dark and there's times in which it is light. Hopefully that makes sense. Hmm. Auxins are the hormones in a plant that stimulate cell elongation. You can think of it very close to the meristems. You know, again, the meristems are at the tip of the root, tip of the stem, and they allow for the plant to continue to grow more and more. Auxins are the hormones that say continue to grow. One last multiple choice, and we're over halfway through. So feel good about yourselves. How do I phrase this? If a plant is set horizontally and there is gravity, then auxins promote cell elongation to force the stem upright. Okay, that was a weird one to say. So let's take a plant, right? We got our plant. Nice green dandelion. We take this green dandelion and we set it down horizontally. If this continues to grow and it's set down horizontally in respect to gravity, that means gravity is pulling it down, then the meristems are going to encourage the plant to grow upwards, giving it somewhat of a bend. Does that make sense? The meristems are what does the growth. The auxins promote this cell elongation. It typically wants to reach to the top because that's where the sun is. More sun means more survival. And so it has a means of correction. So I'm going to put a separator into each of these. Take a second to pause if you need to write them down. But this takes care of our multiple choice. So we're going to move on to the sentence structure. Okay. Put you like right here. Ooh. Put you like right here. I think that looks good. As always, I frame each as if they were true. And you'll get word bank on board. Cool. Oh, excuse me. Oh. Okay, this is a toughie. The top of a stamen in a flower is called the anther. The anther is at the very top of the stamen. Got another one down. Food crops, such as wheat, have seeds with large proportions of endosperms. Okay, we eat the seeds, and so food crops would most likely have those seeds be larger endosperms. That way we get more out of it. Does that make sense? Sunflowers, we prefer when sunflowers have more seeds. Okay. The female parts of a flower tend to be in the direct center of the flower, right? So if I draw out a little flower picture, looks like one of those SpongeBob flowers, we're going to get stamen with the anther. I kind of stick out like this, almost like a hibiscus. Then let me use a different color. Let's use like a nice light purple. The female parts tend to be in the center. All right, I think the color changed. Let me, boom. What is up with this? I don't know. Sorry, guys. But the very center, which has these pieces stick out, that is the female parts. Right? Well, the stamen and the anther, which produce the pollen grain, tend to be the male parts. Okay. Oh, look at the time. Should probably work on speeding this up a little bit. Fruit can ripe faster in the presence of ethylene. All right. As fruits ripen, it produces ethylene gas. And so if ethylene gas is there, it encourages the fruits to ripen. So they say, you know, if you have bananas that aren't ripe, put them in a bag with a couple of apples. It's because apples ripen faster. And so when the apples ripen, the bananas are encouraged to ripen. Cytokines delay the aging of leaves in plants. That's one of them. So leaves tend not to age in plants thanks to the cytokines. The colorful and biggest part of the flower that attracts pollinators is the petals, right? I mean, everyone tends to know what a petal is, but it's still worth mentioning. It is technically the biggest part of the flower, and it is the colorful ones. It's the one that produced the nice spells. If you intend to propagate a plant, then the buds need meristem tissue. What is propagation? Let's say, you gonna work now, bud? I swear, I'm changing you to the pen. Okay, so let's say you got a tree. And the tree's not really growing branches, and you need some branches on there. So you take another tree, and you cut off his branch, and you install that branch onto the other tree. That's the propagation. Now, if you want to propagate a plant, because it's not just trees, then the buds need the meristem tissue. The meristem is what encourages the growth. If you have a bud without it, then the bud's not gonna bloom or flourish. Does that make sense? But that's gonna do it. Oh, you kind of missed that whole diagram of the tree, but like, you take the stem or the branch off of one tree, put it onto another. So that's gonna do it for the sentence structure. Okay. You want me back? We're going back to you, pencil. Good Lord, you're really peeving me off. You just wait. Your time will come. But take a second, pause it if you need to, take some time and write down your notes. Finally, finishing us off, we're going on to the short response. So I've got 3 of them here. Let's change it up. Let's put it on the right side first. If the seeds in a plant are dry and lightweight, then they tend to be dispersed by means of wind and water. Wind or water. If the seeds are surrounded by fruit, then they are intended to be dispersed via animal. So fruit, tasty. Love me fruit, love me apple, love me orange, love me some banana. I eat banana. Banana have seed. Well, I eat banana, I digest flesh of banana, I don't digest seed. I go to the restroom. The seeds of the banana then are dispersed. They're able to grow in a new place in which they don't compete against their parent. And so they are done that way. If the plant has very light seeds, they're dry, they're intended to go for long distances without being watered down and carried down by its weight, then that's wind, that's water. Okay. Selective breeding is done on plants. We choose certain traits and let those reproduce. Okay? Think about an apple, right? An apple has many traits inside of it. Okay? So the apple has its shiny red color. So we might breed apples that have more shiny red color because that's appetizing to look at. It's got its nice round shape. So we might breed out apples that has a nicer, rounder shape. We might breed out apples that are having less seeds or are bigger with more flesh. You know, you cut it open, there's more eatable flesh, less of a core, smaller seeds. Or maybe you want apples with bigger seeds. Maybe a certain flavor, you want them nice and sour and tart. Maybe that's for pies. You choose what you want, and you take those traits and you let those reproduce. That's selective breeding. It's done on plants. So you could think about many different types of plants, and they have selective breeding done to them. Genetic modification. Final one. Flower fertilization is different from other plants since they double fertilize. They produce a diploid zygote as well as a triploid cell. If you remember, haploid means 1 set of chromosomes, diploid means 2 sets of chromosomes. Bada bing, bada boom, you guessed it. Triploid means they've produced 3 sets of, count up, 3 sets of chromosomes. But that's going to do it for us today here on our Chapter 22 quiz review. Please take notes, please be ready, but you're going to do awesome on this quiz. I hope you have a great day. And enjoy your time, my friends. Bye. Oh, I gotta hit stop recording.